Okay, so I'm about to make adder.py, which is currently blank and does nothing at all. Hopefully by the end it can add two numbers. To avoid starting everything from scratch, I'm going to copy my old code for greeter.py into adder.py. So now adder does exactly the same thing that my greeter.py does, complete with the horrible dark blue background. I might change that to be maybe white. There you go. Now I need to change this to add a few numbers. So first of all, I need something to, an entry for each of those numbers. So I'll have a number 1 entry, and then I'll pack that one. Notice that I'm not just calling it name. I'm giving things sensible names. I've got number 1 and number 2. That is so much more sensible than name 1 and name 2, because these things aren't names. If you have a complicated program, you will be horribly confused. Alright, so let's run this. Now I've got my two entries here. Probably need to have a plus button in the middle so the person knows that they're going to get added. Maybe. Actually, no, I'll just have the two buttons. But I will want to have a button here that says sum, because the user will be able to figure out the sum of these two things. The idea is I click this thing and it says 5. It doesn't do that at the moment, but hopefully we can make it do it. Currently it's still, assuming that there is a thing called name entry, which there isn't. So number 1, let's call this thing sum button, because it's not a greet button anymore, it is a sum button. Python does not care as long as you are consistent, but if you don't give things sensible names, you will go crazy and make mistakes. So now I've got one sum button clicked. The reason these errors all came up is because name entry, where's the line? There you go. Name entry is not defined. I don't have a name entry anymore. I've got a num entry. So I'll call number 1 is number1 entry.get, and number 2 is num2 entry.get. And I will print num1 and num2 next to each other. If I put a hash here, that means that these lines will be commented out. So it should just print the numbers that I've entered. So if I go 3 and 2, press sum, excellent, it prints 3 and 2. All right, now we can print the message. Maybe the message would be the answer, oops, that's what it's, N-S-W-E-R is answer, is num1 plus num2. Some of you might see a problem that it's going to happen. Some of you might not, but let's see what this does. My intention was to add these two numbers together. So if this was 3 and this was 2, I would like it to say 5. But does it? Oh no, 3 plus 2 is 32. What is this kind of quick maths? The problem is that num1 here is a string. When you put text in this thing, it is a string. And number 2 is a string. So this is a string that is 2. So it is adding 3 as a string to 2 as a string, which just kind of smushes them together to make 3, 2. We want these to be treated as integers. So when I fetch it, when I get it, I will convert it to an integer. All right, so that's problem number 1. There will be another problem that we will see. 3, 2. Oh no, it's erroring out. And it's erroring because type error must be string, not int, right here. Well, let's think about the types of these things. This is a string, this is an int, and this is also an int. Well, we can't add a string and an int. We need to convert them. If you've got this is not a hugely complex calculation, but it is always handy to put things onto multiple lines to make it easier and store it in temporary variables. So now plus answer. At least now this is easy to think about. Okay, so this is an int, and this is an int. So this is an int. So when I print it here, I need to convert it to a string so that I can add this string to this as a string, because I would not be allowed to do this string plus this int. Python won't let you mix types like that. It will only let you add a string to a string. All right, so hopefully 3, 2. Yes, answer is 5. Winning. So it does work, and that is really nice, but I might want to make it a little bit prettier. One thing that I might want to do is, these are all squished together. I don't want them to be squished together. I also don't want the background of this thing to be white anymore. So I'm going to get rid of that. So that's not white anymore. Check that works. You know, always test your little changes. Make sure things worked. Yeah, that worked. And now when I pack this intro label, actually maybe not that. Maybe this entry, I can give it padding. I can give it padding horizontally, 10 padding horizontally, and 10 pixels of padding vertically. I will do the same for this one as well. So that gives it a little bit more room around it. Hey, maybe I'll even do it for the button. Do it for everything. I'm on a roll. All right, sweet, got some spacing. I would also like, well, what is your name? That doesn't make any sense. What should I call this instead? Maybe, actually, maybe I'll just make it a title, a nice title. I'm going to call my program CalcPow, you know, nice catchy name. And I'm going to give it, I don't want to make it bigger, I want to make it stand out. So it really is a title or a heading. You know, Arial font maybe, size 30. The first thing here, so font takes a list of two things. The first thing is the name of the font, and the second thing is the size of the font in pixels. Well, that didn't seem to work. The problem is that if you want something to be a heading, you have to make it a label. Beautiful. Wonderful. There you go. This is starting to look pretty good. It'd be nice to have a picture as well. Maybe that's selfish, but or greedy to demand that my program looks really pretty and has a nice picture. But let's put a picture in. To get a picture, I will need to open it. Maybe I'll do it after this heading. I'm going to save this variable, this image, as a variable called img, image, image.open. I do have a picture in this folder called calculator scientific .jpg, which I've supplied to you in this Tkinter blank folder. Image is something, you know, to load a JPEG file. Python just doesn't natively support that. We need to import a library. That library is called the Python image library. That's why it's called PIL, Python image library, right? We can import image tk and image. These things will be needed to load the image and to show the image on the screen. So this will successfully load the image. But Mr. Neri, that doesn't look like it's successfully loaded. Ah, but it is. It's loaded, but it is not displayed on the screen. So let's display it on the screen. To display it on the screen, I can convert it into an image widget, or at least an image that can be used in a label. Image tk.photo image. So this will get this thing and convert it to something that TK can use. And then to actually show it on the screen, you need to, quite confusingly in my opinion, put it into a label. The label has no text, but it does have an image. So the label widget, you know, we made one up here. The first thing is always the window. And this one is sets the image to use. And finally, of course, I need to pack it. Check that it worked. Whoa, that is enormous. Let's make it a little bit smaller. To make it a little bit smaller, I need to get this image and use something that is available in PIL. A PIL image, I'll do it just up here. A PIL image has a method called thumbnail. Right? 100 pixels by 100 pixels. Right? So this resize image to fit in 100 pixels by 100 pixels. Right? It'll fit in that gap. So hopefully this works. It should make it smaller. Yes. There we go. This thing's starting to look pretty good. Is there anything else that we need? Oh, the only other thing, this doesn't span the full width. I want this button to be big. I want it to span the full width of the window. To do that, as well as giving it padding, I can say fill horizontally, you know, in the X direction. So take up any available space in the X direction, which it does. You can actually do this on any of the others as well. You know, so we could put it on the number entry, for example. There you go. And that means instead of just taking up the smallest space possible, take up as much as you need. And I believe that is everything that you need for this tutorial. So have lots of fun making your full-on calculator.